Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Snark Bait. I'm Sophie.
I'm Christy, and today we're going to be talking all things Brianna Chickenfry LaPaglia. Now, I just want to quickly say up top, I know she is one of the most requested influencers we've ever done before. So I'm going to do my absolute best to bring her to life, bring her justice to her story. Admittedly, Sophie and I are not experts. So if I miss anything, please let us know in the Spotify comments. But I think this is one's going to be more likely than not a two-parter, because there's a ton of stuff to her name. Are you excited, Sophie?
I'm so excited. I'm obsessed with how you introduce it like it's a true crime story. Like bring justice, bring her to life. Her smile lit up a room.
When she walked into a room, not only did she close the deal, but she lit it up.
Okay, let's get into
Let's get into it.
it.
Okay, Sophie, it is Monday, March 31st. We are on the last day of March. How are you feeling as we enter into a new month? How has your day been? Tell me everything.
It's been such a Monday, and I know you feel me also. There's been like just a lot of like admin work stuff. Had to go to a fucking bank today. Yeah, there's just been like a lot happening. How was your Monday, Christy?
I have to shout out Henry Brooks, husband of the pod. He's been like really liaising as our pseudo business manager, and he and I have been in contact not only for Sophie's birthday, which happened a couple days ago, but also as we move into like the business part of this podcast. And like, rest assured, we hear you. There's a lot of things coming down on the roadmap that like I hate to be that girl to tease it, because I don't even want to tease anything, because there's just a lot of things that are upcoming that we want to talk about. But Henry's kind of been on the ground helping us with so much of that. And I'm just so grateful for the two of you for handling like some of these pieces. I'll handle that piece. We have a good thing going.
Yeah, we're a good team. He's like our unofficial. Actually, I demoted him. He was CFO. I was like, I feel like maybe you can like start as like summer intern. He's like a summer analyst.
So today, when Sophie was at Wells Fargo trying to open up a bank account, she made this joke and she's like, well, maybe if you had a business you were passionate about. And he goes, well, like, no, I mean, what did he say?
He like took me seriously because he's not a baby Snark. Like he just like he doesn't really like have the bandwidth to like listen to our episodes. And I was like, you don't get our inside jokes. Basically, we were trying to start like a business account, like a Snark bait business account, which is
Yeah.
really complicated and hard to do, by the way. And I needed my chaperone, Henry, to help. And yeah, it's a whole thing. There's like, you guys, there's a lot of work that goes into starting a business, okay? And I don't know if we were fully prepared when we first started talking into these microphones. But here we are.
Yeah. And I got to meet Sophie's sister in real life over the weekend. We did like a business Zoom.
Oh
And it was
yeah.
so funny because when we jumped on, Amanda goes, oh my God, I'm starstruck. I'm like, I'm starstruck. Like, this is so cool. Like, it's so funny when you see people, when you talk to them online, and then when you finally get to meet them, it's
Yeah.
like, it's really cool. I don't know. It's happened to me so many times as I've entered the podcast sphere, and it never gets old. Like, it's always really nice to meet people, either Zoom or in real life.
Also, like I feel like I know that she means it when she says she was starstruck because she listens to every she actually is a baby Stark, one of the sisters of the pod.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, she's been really helpful with like I don't want to like dox her, but like she works in sales and so she's helping us with like, just helping us with some biz stuff,
Yeah, some
which
Kim
was
Kardashian.
so nice. So shout out to Mandy, one of the sisters of the pod. We love you. Yeah.
So, as we kind of dive into this deep dive, Sophie, speaking of sisters, not that there's any,
I
speaking
have
of
no idea where
family,
this is going.
I was like, speaking of family, with the Barstool family, we have Brianna Chickenfry LaPaglia, who is such an omnipresent force in the Barstool sphere. And she's really just come up over the last like two years, primarily like I think when she started dating Zach Bryan, she really became like a huge force and a huge online presence on Reddit, TikTok, all the things. So what are your kind of initial thoughts and feelings about Brianna?
My thoughts and feelings towards Brianna Chicken Fry is that I feel like I woke up from a coma and all of a sudden she was everywhere. I missed like whatever like origin story she had, which is why I'm so excited for this episode because I feel like I'm going to learn some stuff. But again, she is such a like fixture in our DMs. Everyone is like, you guys have to do a chicken fry episode. So it's a long time coming, but it's obviously like a big juicy one. Ew. I hate that I just said that. Um, what are your thoughts and feelings pre-reading this outline that Olivia, our researcher, has so lovingly helped us put together? What what are your pre-outline feelings on Brianna Chicken Fry?
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I think that she is just everywhere. Every time I open Reddit,
Hmm.
people are talking about her, and I always kind of felt like I wasn't part of the cool club. Like I never knew the references people were talking about, and it's not like I thought. I don't know. She just was kind of a blind spot for me. And there's so many
Yeah.
influencers. It's like she just wasn't the person that I follow. But for whatever reason, she triggers a lot of people. And kind of going through this outline, and just to caveat, this is a 23-page outline, and I think Olivia is still working through it. So we're going to do our best to at least cover half of this outline. And I think I'm sure as we move through the other 13 pages, like we'll learn more and more, and I can understand why people have this visceral reaction to her. But like through even reading the initial pieces of this, I'm like, wow, she does have kind of a lot of scandals that I could see why people just have a really icky feeling when they see her. And I think that's completely outside of her relationship with Zach Bryan or how she came into fame. Like she's done a lot of weird, problematic things in the past, isolated outside of her
Hmm.
relationship, where to me, like that's kind of where she grew to have so much fame that makes people annoyed with her and cannot stand her.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I don't know. Like I know obviously she has this massive fan base, but like what is the appeal? Like I want to know, like obviously people are drawn to her for some reason. I want to know why. I personally, again, I feel like it might be a generational thing. Our last week, our episode was Jake Shane, and I feel like he's such a Gen Z fixture. And I feel like she's the same way. She's very Gen Z. And I mean, also anyone who starts at Barstool, I immediately am just like, ugh, like I will judge you if you start your career at Barstool. I mean, when have we been wrong? Alex Cooper, Dave
Hmm.
Portnoy, they all have episodes.
Yeah, refer back to our back
Yes,
catalog. And I think
yes.
to answer your question, what about her is so like sticks for people? And I think, and this is just me just reviewing her over the last couple days, she seems almost like she toes the line between like being a guy's girl, but also a girl's girl. And I think that's why she had a lot of appeal to people initially. Like she didn't present herself as like an Alex Cooper Barstool employee. Like she wasn't like I don't want to say conventionally like because she's beautiful. I think she's really pretty. Um, but she doesn't have that like kind of sex appeal right when she walks in the room. She kind of has that tomboy feeling.
Hmm.
And I think that I mean, I'm not from the Northeast, but I do know like she has that Northeast vibe that I think a lot of men and women kind of appeal for. They're really into. Um, to me, she represents exactly what a Barstool woman would be, if that makes sense.
Like, you know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of like the cool girl spiel from Gone Girl,
Mm-hmm.
movie Gone
Mm-hmm.
Girl, where it's like she likes sports and she likes to eat. She doesn't, whatever it is that Rosamund Pike's character says, Amy Dunn. Yeah, I feel like she's kind of like that cool girl that's like into sports and kind of a tomboy, but also hot and has big boobs. She has a boob
Mm-hmm.
job. Like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of the people, I always think like, okay, who is she at my high school? And she's like one of those cool girls who just like drank, hung with a guy. She was probably every guy's like best friend. She just has that aura of maybe like effortlessly kind of not even chic, not effortlessly cool in the sense of like Dakota Johnson effortlessly cool. Like she just wakes up and she just is like she rallies and people just want to hang out with her and party with her.
You know what's funny is that you last week you said the same thing for Jake Shane. You're like, he was like that guy at my high school. I'm like, was my high school like not very? I can't think of someone who was like the Brianna Chickenfry of my high school or the Jake Shane of my high school. I think my high school is very like monotonous.
Oh my God. I feel like I went to a typical like all American, like Orange County, like exactly like what
Yeah.
you would think of, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We had like different vibes, I think, at our high school. Like I was in the Midwest, you were in SoCal, which by the
Yeah.
way, I would fantasize. I would watch Laguna Beach. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I would watch Laguna Beach in like the OC and I would be like, why the fuck did my parents choose Ohio and not Southern California? I want to go to the beach every day with my friends. Like I
Yeah.
thought that growing up in SoCal was like the coolest possible life.
It's funny you say that because I've met a lot of people that are transplants that move to Orange County and they say, you know what actually pushed me to move here was the show Laguna Beach. Like it was a kind of like this impetus of people wanting to move here. It's it was yeah, it's exactly like you would expect, you know, and I think that added to the colorful nature of all these characters from my high school. But
Yeah.
should we get into it?
Yeah, let's jump in.
So, one thing I will say about Brianna Chicken Fry is I genuinely feel like, based on what she has shared with us on podcasts, on her own podcast, Plan Brie, she's had like a difficult upbringing. And now I want to caveat that a lot of people have a lot of speculations as to the truth behind what the stories that she tells. It seems like what people claim is that she's kind of like Craig Conover. She's a lawyer, not a lawyer, but she's a storyteller. And maybe she could be embellishing a lot of the things that she says. But that being said, I don't assume the things that she's sharing on this particular podcast episode that I watched is necessarily untrue. It's like this is pretty traumatic events to happen to just lie about. So, just as a background, she was born in 1999 in Rockland, Massachusetts. She has she's the youngest of four siblings. She's 26 years old. Well, what's interesting is that her older siblings all were half siblings. So, despite her having this like quote unquote large family, she actually didn't grow up in the same household as these half siblings. So, for all intents and purposes, she was like an only child. And she explains, I grew up in kind of like this, not like the most like wealthiest suburb. And I often would walk myself home after school. Like I didn't go to daycare. My parents were both like lower middle class. They were both working. So I would like, walk my ass home from school and take care of myself really from the second I got home from school all the way to like 8 p.m. because my parents were both working individuals. And she explains, actually, one thing I want to ask you is, by the way, and this is probably going to be controversial and people might get pissed at me for saying this, and I don't mean this in a shady way. So many of my best friends are not only children. Like I think there's a certain type of person that becomes that is an only child and the personality that precedes them. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Do you have any friends that are only
Yes,
children, best
I
friends?
I do, and I understand obviously like there is such a stereotype there, but I also think like one of my really good friends is an only child and she is a completely well-adjusted, kind, empathetic, selfless, great human being. And I feel like, and I'm not saying that like, oh my God, all only children are the opposite, but the stereotype, there's a stereotype there with only children, which I don't know. I feel like I just don't know enough in real life to be able to say any which way. But I do have a good friend that's an only child who is amazing, is the point.
Yeah, no, likewise. And I don't want to make this blanket statement that every only child is a menace. Like one of my best friends is an only child, but it's interesting, right? I think that when you kind of raise yourself, her words, she's like, I raised myself when I was from a very young age. And I think you kind of have to find ways to like entertain yourself and make life fun when
Hmm.
you're home alone. So I think
Yeah.
maybe that probably attributes a lot to her star power and her ability to be super boisterous and outgoing. Maybe because she kind of just taught herself like, hey, I'm gonna be the star of the show because I'm.
That is such a good point. That's also like I feel like middle children. Like if
Yeah.
you're like a lot of middle children that I know have these boisterous extroverted personalities because they didn't get as much attention as the oldest or the youngest.
Yeah.
I
So
do believe in birth order. There's a lot. I feel like we could do a whole episode on birth order.
yeah, I think that internal family relationships and birth orders definitely kind of shape and form who you are today. So it kind of, I don't know, that just kind of struck me as interesting. But what about her family life was so, I guess, traumatic? So in 2000/2001 time, so she would have been only like a year and a half, 2 years old. Brianna went missing and she was found in a crack den with her aunt. So she was barely 2 years old at the time, right? So this kind of shows
God.
you the precarious situations that she was put in against her will because she was a little baby. Um, Brianna claims that her family they lived in like this trailer park community, and a lot of people again dispute this claim. They say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I know what she's saying. She always says that she comes from this trailer park kind of lifestyle." But people say, I'm from Boston. A lot of Reddit users were kind of saying, I'm from Boston. Where she's talking about is more likely than not this area named Alice Haven. And they say that yes, it is like a trailer area, but it's more of like a glamping campground type area. I don't claim to know anything about the Boston Northeastern region, but this is what I'm just seeing on Reddit. Um, but again, it's kind of like, what about her upbringing that she claims is true? Did she grow up in a trailer park, basically raising herself, or is that kind of embellished? Who knows? Two of her sisters, her half sisters, struggled with addiction and were in abusive relationships. And there's a lot of just I don't even want to use the term lore, just weirdness around her sisters. Like one of her sisters, her name is Brooke. She was arrested for blackfishing, and another one of her sisters,
Wait, I didn't
Valerie.
know that. like blackfishing is bad. I didn't know it was like elite. Like I didn't know you could get arrested for that.
I didn't know this either. Yeah, that's just what Olivia wrote. But another sister, Valerie, she was arrested for a multitude of reasons, such as underage alcohol possession, drunk driving, suspended license, and shoplifting. And
Wow.
at the young age of 8, she literally witnessed her uncle overdose in her family's basement. So I think, needless to say, even if one part or two parts is embellished, even one of those events can basically alter your brain
That
chemistry.
is insane. Yeah, it does look like there's stuff about Brooke, her sister Brooke, getting in trouble for blackfishing. That's insane.
I know, I had no idea. I mean, definitely it's a problematic thing. I had no idea it was like an arrestable offense.
Right.
Um, so I think
I
I always try and when I explore these influencers, I really do like to understand their upbringing because when I was reading about obviously the allegations that she had against Zach Bryan of being abusive, it's kind of like she comes from a family that it seems like not that it's expected, but if you grow up in a family where this is maybe normalized or this is occurring, I think it's kind of like a generational thing where this could potentially happen to that young child when they grow older.
right, right. Totally.
So when she entered college, she attended Baldwin Wallace University in Ohio. Are you familiar with
I
the
actually had never heard of that, but I just looked up where Berea, Ohio.
hmm
Um, or Berea. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like northeastern Ohio, and I'm from southwestern Ohio, so not very close, but
Gotcha.
interesting.
Yeah, so
That's kind
she,
of interesting that she would go so far away.
right. I know. And just a random place, but I guess she was on the track to, she claims that she wanted to be a doctor and she majored in public health. And I was watching a podcast episode where she said, yeah, I was pre-med, but like, truth be told, when I was a freshman in college, I went to like a primarily like med school university. Everyone's pre-med. Like you
Yeah,
always say that.
anyone could be pre-med. Also, like, okay, I'm sorry to backtrack for a second. What's the deal? And I know that there's going to be a logical answer for this, just like there was a logical answer when we talked about Bronwyn from Salt Lake City and the connection between Brazil and Salt Lake City.
Yes.
So many people are like,
Brazil.
this is why. Like, I know there's a
Yeah.
logical reason that I'm just too lazy to look up. So, how do you say Brianna's last name?
La Paglia, I
La
think.
Paglia. So she's obviously of Italian descent.
Yes.
Why is Boston? They have so many Irish and Italian Catholics. It's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know, just something.
I think I'm trying to think of when Europeans immigrated to the Northeast. Not the main, God, I feel like people are going to yell at us for getting this wrong. I'm sorry. I don't claim to be a historian, but
I'm
yeah, you're
sorry to
right.
even pose this question. I just like I feel like wonder that sometimes. I'm like, how did so many Italians end up in New Jersey and Boston?
No, it's like the same thing with Asian people. Like, how did so many Asian people land in California? Right? I mean, it's like, I don't know the answer to that.
What's the snark on
On on
on on
immigration.
immigration?
No, literally.
Um, uh,
So, she actually dropped,
economic opportunities drawn by economic opportunities.
it's
That's
always
why
the
so many
economic
Italians. It's
opportunities.
always the economic
I
opportunity.
mean, we should have known.
We're dumb and dumber. Every time we talk like this, I'm like, I just know that commenter that called us dumb and dumber is feeling so vindicated.
Like, that's one thing I will never stand for, though, for anyone to call us dumb. Like, I am literally not dumb.
You're not.
Like,
I
no,
kind
you're not
of.
dumb. No, you're not. That actually bothers me when people say that. I'm like, say whatever you want, but do not insult my intelligence. Just, you can't. Okay?
Okay.
Okay? Okay. So she actually dropped out of university in her sophomore year. And actually, a Reddit user with a handle emergency dash strike dash 746 says that they did actually go to college with Brianna. And they said that they shared this freshman psych class and that she actually was like a really hard worker. She was like full time with Barstool at the time because she was interning and she was like on the dive team. She was in school. Like she actually kind of was hustling, which you got to respect the hustle, when you're
Yeah.
working 3 jobs. I mean,
I had no idea that she was like a college athlete. That's amazing. Again, Barstool, Alex Cooper, sporty.
that's a really good analogy. Like, I think, yeah, something about that kind of
Yeah.
female persona. So yeah, she was on the women's swimming and diving team for 2 seasons. And Olivia, she's like kind of a nerd for like college sports. She said that Brianna didn't actually get a scholarship to dive and most likely just received not really special treatment as an athlete at the university. And she kind of was like doing it for the love of the game because they were D3 athletes. It's not like they were, super high up in the, what do you call it? I don't know, sports. It's not like they were
And
competing for nationals or I don't know what you,
varsity nationals, the
literally,
natty.
no idea. But so yeah, she's an athlete, and I think there's something to be said about college athletes and like that discipline and that will. I think that definitely translates over to really good work ethic.
Yeah, for sure.
So in 2019, Brianna started to kind of showcase her online skills. So she's a sophomore and she started her TikTok where she started like posting candid videos of herself experiencing like partying and hangovers, and she kind of self-dubbed herself as the CEO of Hangovers. And again, I think that kind of goes back to her allure of being this like hot, relatable party girl that drinks and goes to college. And I think you have to remember in 2019, no one was on TikTok like we are now.
No, oh my God. I only like thought that it like technically started here in 2020.
Me too. And I think I might have read somewhere, I could be misspeaking, but I think she had even said, I watched an episode where she said she started on Vine and then she made the transition to TikTok. So she was kind of like the early
Hmm.
influencer. And I watched this TikTok of her in 2019 that Olivia had posted in here, and it's actually quite concerning. So she's doing a talking to the camera video, and she goes, "Me and my boyfriend just got into an argument." And she explains that, we were out at the bar. This Uber picks us up. We both get into the car, and the Uber driver turns around and asks, "How was your night?" And Brianna basically responds, like, "It was fine, except my boyfriend fucking sucks." And I guess they started to get into it in the car. By the time that they got home, the altercation ensued, and he punched a hole into her drywall. And she turns the camera around, and there's this fat freaking drywall punch. And she goes, "Isn't that crazy? Like my boyfriend just punched a hole into the drywall." And I'm thinking, like, okay, that's kind of unsettling that she's posting
That's
about
not
this.
normal. Also, I cannot get over how different she looks.
Yeah, she looks very different from that TikTok video to now. Different person. I think she got
Yeah.
new teeth.
Oh, she got veneers. She got like a nose job, obviously a boob job, which we already mentioned, which is fine. It's her body. It's just it's crazy to reference.
Right. Yeah, she honestly, I couldn't even recognize her when I
Yeah.
watched this TikTok. Um, and if you were curious where her name Chicken Fry, what the inception of that is, so she made a okay, yeah, so she was an early Viner. And I guess she had made this old Vine video in which she compared her legs to Burger King chicken fries. And so
I miss those. Those were so good.
that's where it came from because she had thin legs, and that's yeah, that's how the name kind of just stuck.
And it really stuck.
It really did. BCF. So in 2020, she kind of enters her barstool kind of party girl era. And this is kind of when her cancelable moments kind of start to surface. So in 2020, she was approached by Barstool, I think because she was kind of active on TikTok. She had about 80,000 followers at this time, which is a lot if you think about it. The early inception of TikTok. I mean, today, still, I feel like that's a lot. But
Yeah.
they had offered her an internship, an unpaid internship. And she apparently was just an intern for only 1 week until Barstool hired her on full time. And she ends up
Wow.
dropping out of college. She moves to New York City to pursue this career in media at Barstool. And she explains, like, it was a huge gamble for me to leave Ohio, for me to start this new life. I was still super young, didn't know what I was getting myself into, but she wanted to try it on for size. And she obviously ended up being super successful from it, which I think, what's
Wow.
interesting? Being from the Northeast, and honestly, I feel like from the Midwest too. And I think I've spoken about this, like coming from California, we didn't and I don't think it's just because I don't follow sports. Like we don't do barstool here. Like that's not really a thing
Yeah.
that California people are necessarily watching or paying attention to. And then when I talk to people like guys that I know from Chicago, barstool's like life. Like they love
Yeah.
barstool. What's that about?
I think it really is a regional thing. And yeah, we definitely touched on this on our Dave episode, but like, I mean, being from the Midwest, I know how prominent Barstool is there. And then also now living in the Northeast on the East Coast, like it definitely feels like it's a regional thing. And then I had like family members that listened to our Dave episode that live in the South in Georgia. And they were like, I've never heard of this man. I've never heard of it. Like, it's just, it's not as big in other regions of the US. And I can so see that. Like, why would you guys in Southern California be concerned about Dave Portnoy and like frat boy
Yeah.
culture. You guys have better shit to focus on. In the Midwest, we don't.
Yeah, no, I didn't even mean it like in that way, but it's very interesting how when I have
It's
friends from
true.
different areas of the country, like they're so pro Barstool. And I think in this podcast episode, I listened to her and she said, being at Barstool, like being a full-time employee at Barstool is like my dream. Like to her, it was everything. And she was able to achieve this milestone in her career before she even had a career. I mean, she was what, like
Yeah.
20 years old? I mean, it's a big deal
And
for
that gamble
anyone.
like paid off. Like she dropped out of college to take this job. And like that is a huge risk. And it definitely paid off.
Yeah, and I think that this is not like a normal career path. And I think not only is it scary to leave everything that you know, but also to be a woman at Barstool and be as successful as she's become. It's pretty crazy if you think about it.
Yeah,
It's not normal.
definitely.
Um, and I think of like Rhea and Fran, they're kind of like they are big time, but I think when you think about Brianna and Alex Cooper, like those are the two stars that like came out of Barstool and really were able to mainstream media their
Like
success.
transcend like beyond the Barstool name.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think Rhea and Fran are so cute. Like I have no issues with them at all, but for whatever reason, they're still very much like intertwined in the Barstool name.
Yeah, my barometer is like if I asked like my older neighbor or my younger coworker or whoever it is, like Gen Z person, older person, whatever it is. If I ask them who this person is and they like what is the likelihood that they would know who they are? Alex
Yeah,
Cooper, Brianna Chickenfry, not 100%, but like there's a high likelihood. Rhea and Fran, probably not.
probably not. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a very good barometer. So at this time, she starts to post with her boyfriend. His name is Nick Pellegrino. And she, at the same time, launches her show called Plan Brie. And it actually originally was like a commentary and reactionary style video kind of forum that initially flopped. And then they moved it over to a podcast format. And like 2 years later, obviously, she ends up co hosting it with Grace O'Malley, which we'll get into. Um, but in that same year, she then ends up going on a trial period on the BFF's podcast with Josh Richards and Dave Portnoy. And after just a handful of episodes, they're like, we're going to bring you on full time. So it's like thing after thing after thing, she's like succeeding and able to attach herself to like really good opportunities. And honestly, admittedly, I'm thinking back to 2020. I don't think she was really on my radar then.
No, definitely not. I don't think she like showed up on my radar until like 2022, maybe. Maybe 21. Wait, I have a confession to make because we were talking about Josh Richards earlier and we are like, do we need a Josh Richards episode?
Yeah.
I have a confession that I think he's hot.
Sophie, I think he's so hot and I feel like a
We have
pedophile.
the same taste. I know,
No, no,
I feel like it's
Sophie,
like not okay that I think he's hot. But you know what's
100%.
funny? So the only funny Barstool video that I've ever laughed at is this guy, Lil Sasquatch, who's a
Okay.
Barstool comedian. And basically there's this video of Josh Richards and like, what are Bryce Hall, whatever
Yeah.
these hype house guys. And they're like, when the boys are single for the summer and they're like dapping up. And then Lil
Yes.
Sasquatch goes, no, the boys are singy for the summer? No way. Trouble is coming. No,
Oh, I
sir.
haven't seen that.
And Dave Portnoy like made Josh Richards watch this, and Josh Richards was like, I love that video, even though he's making fun of him. I don't know. Because I was like, that's how Jesse Solomon talks. That's why I found the video.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, that was a long-winded way for me to say that Josh Richards is hot. I'm sorry.
No, I think I said it in the group channel and Jordan, our producer, was like, I think so too. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not alone.
Wait, I must have missed that. Okay, we're all on the same page.
No,
Josh
I
Richards
was
is
like
hot.
fearful to even say it because I was like, he's so young, but like his eyes are so like striking.
He's hot, you guys.
Something about Canadians, like
Yeah.
they're like real hot,
Yeah. Yep.
men and women. Like just I don't discriminate. I know a attractive person when I see it, and they're more likely than not Canadian.
Absolutely.
In 2021, Trisha Paytas calls out Brianna and Barstool for purchasing and pirating her content that was on her OnlyFans behind a paywall. And they then went on to publicly body shame Trisha Paytas and all of her content. And they were recording, like live streaming their negative reactions. Okay. And they were doing this all on their BFF's podcast. And Brianna Chickenfry was like, Trisha's just looking for attention. And people were like, dude, what are you doing? Like pirating content from someone's like paywall,
Yeah, that's
posting it to
fucked.
humiliate her and like publicly stream it. Like people just had a icky feeling when that happened. Reasonably so.
Yeah, that's insanely fucked. I actually do remember when this happened. So yes, she was on my radar in 2021. Yeah, that's insanely fucked up.
Yeah, that just makes me like my skin crawl. I can only think about how humiliating that must be. Like, do you know what it kind of reminds me of? When Nicole Richie, God, I was like Nikki Hilton. No, when Nicole Richie allegedly streamed Paris Hilton's sex tape at a party, and that's why her and Paris were allegedly not friends.
Yeah, that's fucked. And
It kind
also,
of reminds me of
like,
that.
not only that, but that is someone's paywalled content. So it would be just as fucked up. I mean, not just as fucked up, but like kinda if you took someone's paywalled Substack article that they worked really hard on and you took that article and you showed everyone just to make fun of it. Like
Yeah.
that's someone's livelihood. I don't know.
And is that like copyright infringement as well? I
Yeah,
don't
like
know the
I feel
law.
like that actually is legal. Like that's something that you could get arrested for, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. So I don't know. That's kind of like the beginnings of just what seems to be kind of an icky feeling that people started feeling about Brianna. And so, but her stardom continues to rise, right? So she's doing that plan Brie and she starts hosting college tours. She's selling merch. She then starts this college dropout tour where she's traveling to colleges across the country. She's hosting parties. She's hosting meet and greets. And she's just becoming like a huge success. And let's quickly dive into September 2022. Okay. So, have you heard of Boa Gate?
Yes. Oh my God, I hated her actually when this happened. Yes.
This was actually insane. So, there was a Harry Styles concert, I think at MSG. Brie had attended, and Harry Styles' whole costume, his wardrobe was centered around boas. So when
Hmm.
you go to the concert, everyone and their mother literally is wearing no pun intended, is wearing a boa. And the way that Brie describes it, she says that on her way to the bathroom, she saw this boa that was on the floor. She picked it up. She's like, oh, it's no longer has a home. I'm just going to wear it. And I think the show was like over at this point. She goes into the bathroom with the boa around her neck. She's in line for the bathroom. And Brianna alleges that this woman, this mother with her like young adult, like no, preteen child is with her in the line. The mom turns around, sees that Brianna has the boa around her neck. She then proceeds, this is all allegedly compared to Brianna. The mother then proceeds to grab the boa and yank it out of Bree's neck. And Bree gets pissed, right? She's like, holy fucking shit, she wrapped it, she ripped it from my neck. Karen alert, crazy fucking bitches. And then Brianna puts her phone down on like one of the stands and she just starts recording her getting into it and screaming at this mother. Like it's unsettling to watch.
Hmm.
And she's like, oh my God, the daughter's about to cry. I feel so bad. Your mother's a stupid fucking bitch. I want to kill her. I want to fucking kill her. Like she is screaming at this mom in front of her daughter. And when she talks about it and like rehashes it on the BFFs podcast, she says that the mom had no right to yank off the boa from her neck. And she says that because she did so, she went into fight or flight mode. And then she alleged that she's being sued by the mom and the daughter for posting a video. I don't even know where like how that ended up going into the court of law. But in any case, even if the mom did yank the boa out of her neck, which I think in and of itself is a little inappropriate, that does not warrant the straight up violent, aggressive reaction that Brianna had.
Oh yeah, saying that she hopes they get hit by that she gets hit by a car and that she wants to kill them. Like it was insane. All over a boa.
Yeah, and I think this is why I wanted to talk about her like upbringing up top, albeit it was brief, but if she grew up around like just chaos and violence and aggression and drugs,
Hmm.
I can imagine this reaction to her is very normal.
Yeah.
Um, to you and I, if we're at a concert and someone mistakenly thinks that we stole something from them, my initial instinct is not to set my phone down, hit record, and start berating someone. Like maybe it's just a whatever, it's a
Right.
misunderstanding. The thing you do not do is go into someone's face, scream at them, saying that they deserve to die. It's a completely out of pocket reaction that I myself cannot understand at all.
Right. It seems like it's heavily informed by that troubled background that she has, not to make excuses for her, but it just is not a normal reaction. And if you
Yeah.
grow up, again, if you grow up with like, that's how you settle conflicts is by yelling and being aggressive, then like that's going to be your reaction. But yeah, it was so embarrassing for Brie. And actually, I think this was like early on one of my first introductions to her was watching that. I was like, she is insane.
Yeah. And it was just not normal. And I can't even understand how anyone could rationalize that kind of reaction, or if her stance did come out of the woodwork and defend her. Like, I don't see a world in which any of that behavior, no matter what the situation it was to initiate that reaction, like, it's just not appropriate, period.
No.
I feel like
And
that's kind of an
yeah,
offense you could call the cops for.
also like if someone like I'm allowed to bitch out my mom sometimes, but if someone talked to my mom like no,
You
no.
know, you know what I think of is when Raquel told Terry
What
Maloney.
Terry?
That
What
was, I
Terry?
would have actually punched Raquel if she had spoken to my mom like
We're
that.
talking about Vanderpump Rules, by the way, you guys. When Raquel was like extremely disrespectful to Katie Maloney's mom, Terry, I was like, Katie Maloney is a bigger person than me.
Absolutely. And this is why whenever I see like justice for Raquel, I'm like, no, I
No.
literally cannot. I actually think she's the worst person, one of the worst people to come out of Bravo. Like, for real. I think she is so sinister.
Yeah, she is. Speaking of dark energy, she hasn't even been relevant enough to like make it onto one of our dark energy episodes. But yeah, very
Correct.
dark.
Yeah, I just don't stand by. It was really because of that. I'm like, oh, you actually have no respect at all for your
Yep.
elders or for really anyone.
Uh-huh.
Ugh, it just makes
What
my skin crawl.
Terry?
Ugh.
So bad. So bad.
Disgusting. So let's kind of go into the 2023, 2024 OG party breeze. She's shedding her old self, and now she's kind of entering into the Zach Bryan era. And now, before we dive into the Zach Bryan era, what do you think and feel about Zach Bryan, if
Oh my
anything?
God. Fuck Zach Bryan. Zach Bryan is like a piece of shit. I hate the fact that like I have heard a few, and I'm not a country music person. He does have some good songs, which I hate.
Yeah. Yeah, he has this almost like Johnny Cash type unique voice that I can
Ugh.
see why he's really popular. I don't really listen to his music either. I do like country music, but he's again more of a blind spot for me. But he's like
Yeah.
really blowing up over the last couple of years. So, like so many fans, Brianna was a huge fan of Zach Bryan's as well. And she even posted a video of herself in May 2023 where she was literally like fangirling over Zach Bryan. And I watched it, and actually, excuse me, it was a compilation fan video that someone had made, but it's her just like talking about Zach Bryan on her TikTok, and they just compiled it all together. And she really was just like so juiced for Zach Bryan. It's like, literally think of you talking about Drew Starkey in jest on your TikTok, and then all of a sudden Drew Starkey slides into your DMs and you guys start dating. Like, the power imbalance was so off from the very beginning, and it was very clear
Wow.
just from watching this video.
Like that would be like Christy if Chase Stokes slid into your DMs.
I
What if Josh Richards slides into our DMs?
Who would you rather slide into your DMs? Drew Starkey or Josh Richards?
Obviously Drew Starkey.
Yeah,
Like Josh
same.
Richards is hot. You're not. You're no Drew. Mm-mm.
So hot. Um, but yeah, so there obviously was a power imbalance from the very get, and it's very clear just from me watching her fangirling over herself. Like, damn, she was obsessed, as so many, people are for their favorite artists. So please note that at the end of May, Zach ends up announcing that he and his girlfriend of over a year, Deb, have broken up. Keep that in mind. Then we enter June 2023. So there's this whole Reddit STD scandal that ends up coming forth by this woman going by the name Brooke Almond, I think her name is. And Brooke Almond ends up posting on Reddit saying that, hey, Zach Bryan gave me this STD that's affecting my kidney stones. And she ends up posting like a bunch of text messages between the two of them. And those go kind of viral on Reddit. So this timeline is very important, right? Because June 23rd, Brianna attends one of Zach's shows in New York, and she actually goes on stage, which is like kind of a big deal. A couple of days later, she ends up posting a video talking all about the concert, and she admitted that yes, Zach did in fact reach out to her, thanking her for her support of showing up at the show, and their relationship kind of inceptionized from there. End of June comes about. Brianna ends up bleaching her hair, and I think her hair change is kind of indicative of where she is at in life. Like she likes to change her hair color, and it's usually kind of showing like, is she more of a homebody? Then she'll dye her hair brunette. Is she more in her party girl era? Then she'll dye her hair pink. Like things like that.
Oh, I have
Um,
a related note. One
hmm.
time, Henry and I were on a flight with her. I forget where,
Oh,
I completely forgot the details of it. This was a couple years ago. She had pink hair at the time. And also, Henry was the one. This is the only time in history that Henry is recognized like a famous person that
yeah,
I haven't recognized first. So that
yeah,
also goes to show that I think she was popular with men even before she was fully popular with like women.
yeah.
At least like in our generation.
And she must have been in her party girl era because her hair was pink.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so people are so funny on Reddit. Like they've been able to compile like timestamps of like when her hair was a certain color and reconcile that against like when she was spending time with Zach and maybe like the overlap that they might have had with their current relationship. So on June 30th, she bleaches her hair, like I said. Then she claims that that day was the day that she broke up with her then boyfriend, Joey. So end of June, dyes her hair, breaks up with Joey. In July, there becomes a lot of intertwinements as to Zach Bryan and Brianna Chickenfry's like the status of their relationship or when they actually started dating. So July 1st, Brie posts that TikTok where her hair looks bleached, meaning that she was just a day right after her last boyfriend Joey and her broke up. And her hair looks the same as when Zach had posted this like Throwback Thursday, like Flashback Friday type Instagram post. He posted this thing and was like, a year ago today, I met you and you became like my girlfriend or whatever. And people put together on the timestamps of like, okay, if you posted this on July 1st, 2024, let's track that back to when Brianna posted when she broke up with Joey, July 1st, 2023, a year ago. She was still with Joey when you guys were hanging out. Like, people are
Uh-oh.
just so funny. Like they're able to like connect the dots because I think it's kind of like Shannon and Lane's where she's so online that it's hard, it's very difficult for her to lie because keeping we're keeping track just based on her own receipts, right?
Right, right.
And Jordan, our producer, just let us know she famously is kind of known for overlapping her boyfriend. So this may not come as a surprise for most of you that are listening. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, because she was dating that guy, Nick
Pellegrino.
Pellegrino, and then this guy, Joey. And allegedly there was maybe some overlap there too, because Joey was her friend first.
Yes, yes, they were friends
Like
before they
she
became
always needs
the.
someone like in the wings.
Yep, exactly. And it's worth noting that in this Throwback Thursday, or whatever post that Zach posted, he was posting them on a road trip. And people just like see that and they're like, okay, that was like maybe their first date or the first time that they actually became like hanging out. You know, people reconcile that as the first time. Um, July 4th, she posted TikTok wearing a hat that is allegedly Zach Bryan's. Again, she just is giving us content at this point, telling us when she's hanging out with Zach Bryan. And just a week later, on July 9th, even though her and Joey were allegedly broken up, she actually releases publicly, announces her breakup with Joey. And a couple days later, on July 11th, Brianna and Grace take a girls' trip to Fiji. And Brianna explains that she was on antibiotics for kidney stones. And people are trying to parallel that with the kidney stones STD that Brooke Allman was talking about in her Reddit post. And they go, wait a minute, wait a minute. An STD like that shows symptoms 5 to 28 days after exposure. So they basically put the timelines together and said, okay, if Brianna Chickenfry is experiencing trichomoniasis,
Oh
I
my
might be
God.
botching that, and this Brooke Almond girl is also experiencing this, there definitely was overlap to when Zach Bryan was sleeping with Brooke to when he was with Brianna.
But you can also have kidney stones without having that STD. So that's not
Absolutely.
like definitive proof, it's just speculation. But what a horrible STD that gives you kidney stones. How have I never heard of this? We didn't learn about that in health class.
I know. It's not like gonorrhea or chlamydia or like
Yeah, like it's
HPV.
not like the clap.
Yeah. No idea what this one is, but now you know.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, July, I think it's just a lot of mess. I
Yeah,
won't
yeah,
get into like
yeah.
every little thing, but
Also, I remember that Fiji trip didn't like Grace, because we haven't touched on Grace a whole lot, but Grace is her
yeah,
childhood bestie that ended up being her
co-host.
co-host on Plan Brie. And obviously
Hmm.
they have since had like kind of this messy breakup. Um, didn't like Grace like disappear on this trip? Like she got blackout and like disappeared. And then they like made a whole like funny like story out of it.
Oh, I don't know actually. That was not
Okay,
in, called out in the
never mind.
outline.
It could have been a different brand trip.
Got it.
Um, but yeah, I remember that happening. And I think that's something that frequently happens is that they black out together or they did before their friendship
Mm,
breakup and someone would like go missing.
yeah, and I think as we go into the like Zach Bryan of it all, I think Grace is kind of like this omnipresent like part of their relationship because she
Hmm.
was with Bree so frequently because they were working together, they were traveling together, they were doing
Yeah.
the podcast tours together. So I think Grace O'Malley has seen a lot. And I think that's why people are so, and we'll get into that like in part two, but I
Yes.
think that's why people are so disappointed in Brianna Chickenfry. It's like you had this girl that's literally been ride or die for you, has seen you through ups and downs, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you guys aren't good. Like what exactly happened? And I think that's a whole other
Yeah.
thing that
Yeah.
rubs people the wrong way though. And I understand why it would.
Yeah. Totally.
Um, so August, they're traveling together. She's doing her podcast tour. Zach Bryan releases his album, self-titled Zach Bryan. Brianna's laugh is even heard on one of the tracks called Smaller Acts. And they're kind of just like doing the thing where they're on their own respective tours, own respective gigs, but they're kind of meeting and making it work. And in September, Brianna kind of starts posting at Zach's farm in Oklahoma. And you know when I said that she's kind of changes her hair to reflect like the mood that she's in? So apparently during this time on the farm, she dyed her hair brown, like the day after she got to the farm, or like a couple days after she had gotten to the farm. And people were like, dude, you know what's kind of weird? It feels like Brianna's almost like single white femaling Deb,
Yes.
Zach Bryan's ex-girlfriend. And it wasn't even just an appearance. It was like
Yes.
things that she was doing. So
Fry
for
boots. Apparently, Deb loved fry boots, and then Brianna
wow.
started wearing fry boots.
Yeah, it's like very specific. There was clothes that she would mimic. And it wasn't just like, oh, you're wearing the same shirt.
It was
It
like
was
an
like,
aesthetic.
yes, and it was like actual ensemble after like so many outfits were paralleled with what Deb was posting. Then Deb has a Ford Bronco. Brianna gets a Ford Bronco. Then I think the most smoking gun was Deb had posted this Instagram story. It says it's not necessary to react to everything that you notice. And then Brianna Chickenfry then retweets or reposts that same quote to her Instagram story.
It's so scary. And also, it's very just apparent in general how much Brianna's aesthetic on Instagram changed in general when she started dating Zach. Like all of a
Say
sudden
more.
she was like, I'm so like country and like, I'm just, all country and look at us using film photos at the lake house.
People that do that, that change their entire aesthetic to match the person that they're dating, it's like, have you no sense of self?
Yeah, it's kind of like Bella Hadid. I feel
Oh my God, yes. How she's
Bella
like all
Hadid.
Western now.
Now she's a cowgirl, and she was
Yeah.
like an artsy downtown girl when she was with that one boyfriend before this. Um, but yeah, there was some caption that Brianna posted. It was like for her birthday. And it was like sometimes growing up realizes that the moments that count the most are the ones that you spend vacuuming the crumbs when after a night of hosting your friends under the moonlight or like something like
What?
that. And people were like, who is this person?
Yeah, like I'm sorry,
And I
I
feel like
really
those
can't relate.
captions have stopped since they broke up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's really trying to embody this like ho hodunk
Yeah.
country
Country.
bumpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something about Zach that he likes to do allegedly is he likes to gift his girlfriends like dogs. And so just after 14 weeks of dating, he ends up gifting her a yellow lab puppy and they end up sharing four cats, two dogs together. And I guess he has a pattern of just gifting puppies to girlfriends, which is kind of weird. Like, don't gift me a
Yeah.
puppy.
And also, doesn't Brianna like have a history of like the animals are always getting lost?
Yeah, so we'll get into that.
She's the
So,
last person that you should be gifting I think just in general, like that's not, it's funny because I feel like we grow up like in movies. I can't even think of one, but you know what I mean? Like in movies, you always see it's like, oh, it's a little puppy in like a little box for Christmas or whatever it is. Like that's a horrible gift to give to someone.
it's a horrible gift. No, I couldn't
And
agree
we are
more.
dog
It's
people. We are dog people. But like if someone isn't like explicitly signing up to be that dog's parent, then like don't.
don't. No, I completely agree. It's irresponsible from the recipient and the giver. It's just don't do it. So in October, people start to see that there's cracks in this
In
relationship.
October of 2023.
Yep, 2023. So Brianna ends up canceling a trip that she was supposed to see Zach on. She explained that so basically we find out that they had this like quick stint of a breakup in October 2023. And October 12th, Brianna, Grace, and Zach, they attend Fred again in New York City, who's like a producer. And it is commonly believed that there is an altercation that basically ensues between Grace and Zach. And Grace and Brianna often refer to this night on the podcast and talk about how everyone was acting out of their minds. And it just seems like very dark, like dark energy.
Mhm.
Um, Bree later dismisses Grace's emotions, saying, "Oh yeah, our behavior was just due to shrooms." But it seems like something happened, and it's like seems like there's a lot of lore around this night. And I think this is just like one of those things where, um, in October, they were kind of being super messy on social media and they were unfollowing and following each other and people were starting to catch on. But I think a lot of this was like
Brianna and Zach or Grace and
Brianna and
Zach?
Zach.
Brianna and Zach, okay.
Yeah. And so people were kind of like, oh, are you guys like not good? And I think obviously now we know. Um, so let's move on quickly to this Austin live podcast show. So Brianna has these live shows, and she did a live show with I think Grace O'Malley, and they had influencer Ken Urich. There, are you a follower of her, by the way?
I am not a frequent follower, but I know who she is.
Yeah, I don't really like get her lore either. We should probably do an episode on
I keep
her.
getting an ad. Do you know what ad I'm talking about in her Reformation outfit?
What is
She
she
goes,
wearing?
"Let me get my matcha. Let me get my matcha. I'm a diva. I'm a diva in my capris." And it's
Oh
an ad
no,
for Reformation that keeps coming up on my For You page, and I actually love it. Like, it's like I'm like, every time I come across it, I don't skip it.
it's like effective.
I watch it every time.
Yeah, we love that. We love effective marketing.
Anyway, that's my Ken Urich tidbit.
So Ken ends up speaking on a podcast about her experience being at this live show in Austin with Plan Brie. And she said that when she arrived, she was surprised at how off the vibe was, considering how like wild, fun, free Brianna Chickenfry seemed to be. And I think we have to take into consideration her and Zach again were probably going through like a really rough patch. They had broken up really briefly. They were unfollowing each other. They were being super messy. But I guess Ken Urich specifically asked Brianna to not talk about two specific topics. She's like, whatever you do, do not bring these two things up when we're on stage. And I guess the first thing that Brianna ends up bringing up on stage in front of the entire crowd was this specific thing that Ken Urich asked her to please not bring up.
What was
And
it? Do we know?
um, okay, so Olivia says here that Brianna called Kennedy out for getting back together with a man that she publicly accosted for cheating.
Oh, so it was like getting back together with an ex that you talk shit about. Like, yeah, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, she's just like, can we just not talk about it? And she goes ahead and does it. So it just, I don't know, just she doesn't seem to conduct herself very professionally. She seems to not have like a great reputation. Um, and the scandals don't stop there, right? Like on a BFFs episode, they were talking about this TikTok that this college grad had posted. And she was talking, it's like funny, you've probably seen it where she says, like, I'm a recent grad from college and I realize that I have no time to do anything that I like. I wake up, I get ready for work, I take the train, I get into work, I leave work. It's already 7 p.m. I eat dinner, I go to bed. And Brianna and Dave and Josh Richards were basically making fun of this girl. And Brianna made this comment like, you need to try and make a better job for yourself. Like, and
I hate that. I hate that so much.
people took serious offense to it because they're like, that's easy for you to say because you're this content creator that can
That you've
work her own
never had a real
hours.
job. You
Exactly.
have never had to work a real job, which is great for you, but that's not the reality for 99.999% of the population, you know? Same
Right.
with Josh Richards. Even though you're hot, like, shut up.
It's very tone deaf for Josh
Hmm.
Richards and Brianna to say that because, to your point, they've never worked full-time jobs. They've only known being a content creator, which definitely is hard, but it's a different type of hard than it is to work a 9 to 5. So people were just like, dude, you're so fucking out of touch. Like,
Yeah.
and I think things like this really bother people like you and I, like content, like when content creators are on their high horse, bitching and moaning. It's like before you've actually sat in my shoes, you have no, you have no idea what it's like. Because if you ran a business,
Because if you ran a business you were passionate about,
you would know.
you would know.
So she just keeps putting her foot in her mouth. Later on in November 2023, she ends up posting this merch drop and she decided to return to her. She has this like mango and Ollie tattoo and she converted that tattoo into merch.
Who are those pets?
I think so, yes.
Mango and Ollie.
Yes, because Ollie ends up being the cat that ends up going missing.
Oh God.
So Brianna has a follower draw up, like recreate this tattoo and put it on merch. And commentators would try and tag the artist in the comments, and Brianna kept deleting them like clockwork. And she was never truly crediting the artist and never addressed the situation. And people were like, dude, you could make someone's life by just reposting their art. It
That's so
feels
fucked up. How hard is that? You're not paying this person. The least you could do is credit them on social media.
right. And people, again, it just rubs people the wrong way. It's like you're a content creator, you know what it's like to like have to, it's sweat equity, a lot of it. How dare you not give someone credit where it's due? It felt very tacky.
Oh my God, that's so fucked. It's just such an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
it's literally no skin off your back. Just a
Zero.
social media tag, and you can give this person their due credit and then also like make their life.
Yeah. And I think it's one thing to like, if you forget and someone reminds you, then you do it. But the fact that she was actively deleting comments of people that were asking who created this, it feels nefarious to me. Like, I get maybe you forget sometimes to tag, but then tag it and move on. The fact that you were actively just like deleting it, it's insidious.
Yeah. Ugh.
So it doesn't get any better. In December, she's now being posed as an irresponsible pet owner. So Ollie, her cat, goes missing while staying with her sister. So Brianna was in LA at the time. She has her sister house sit her cat, and the sister ends up losing the cat for whatever which way. Her sister posts the missing cat Ollie onto her Instagram story. However, Brianna does not repost this thing, even though her reach is like far wider than her sister's would ever be.
Oh my God.
And people were asking her, like, really concerned, oh my God, what's going on with the cat? Again, going back to deleting comments, anytime someone would ask on TikTok what happened to the cat, she would delete it. And people were saying, like, we're just trying to bring light to like make more people aware of this cat so we can bring Ollie home. And she just seemed to not really care. So the cat ends up going missing for nearly 2 weeks. And finally, Ollie was found missing.
Oh, thank God. Thank
Finally
God.
found, yeah, unharmed. And Brianna addresses it finally on the podcast once Ollie's been found. And she goes, you know what? Ollie had broken out of a screen in my window, and he got out when I was in LA. I was obviously traveling. I was out of office. And my mom, she said, my mom and my sister didn't want to tell me that he was missing. They didn't want to worry me because they knew I was going to be on a trip. And she's like, it was their way of protecting me because they didn't want to freak me out that Ollie was gone. And she's like, listen, I realized I sounded like a douchebag because I wasn't reposting it. But she's like, I don't know, like he was gone for 2.5 weeks. I only knew for 5 days because my parents and my sister were keeping me in the dark. Like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. And people were just like, again, they were rubbed the wrong way.
Oh my God, thank God Ollie was found though. I was like ready to hear that Ollie was never seen or heard from again, and I was gonna be really upset.
I know, thank God. But again, she just seemed peeved that she even had to talk about it. Like I did watch the podcast episode when she was relaying what happened to Grace O'Malley, and she was like, "Okay, so this is what happened." Like you could tell she was
That's
peeved that she had to even talk about it.
I feel like that's so her vibe. Like she is just always, every time I watch a clip of Brianna Chickenfry, she's like, oh, I can't believe I have to fucking talk about, like she's always so like pissed off and annoyed at the world. And
Yes.
also speaking of pets going missing, speaking of Ken Urich has also had pets go missing.
Really?
Yeah, so it's just interesting that we mentioned, to like they both also have so many pets at once. Like if you can't take care of this many animals, then don't have that many animals, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's a pretty baseline thing to ensure. Obviously, mistakes happen.
Yeah,
I'm not shaming
to
anyone who's like,
ensure the safety of your animals that you
right.
own.
And like, I'm not saying it's impossible for you to never lose a pet that you own. Like,
No,
things
but it's happened
happen.
multiple times for both of them.
Yeah. And so that's a pattern where you're just actually irresponsible and you're not keeping a lookout for
Right.
your animals.
Right.
Um, so let's dive into 2024 and we can kind of like wrap this up. But I do want to kind of create the crumbs for what is
Ooh, the
the
crumbs.
breakage in her and
The
Zach's
crumbs that
relationship.
you vacuum out of the carpet after a night under the moonlight with your friends. I need to find the exact caption.
It's just so cringe. So January 7, 2024, Brianna and Grace attend the Golden Globes, and I think everyone's pretty familiar with what ended up happening. Zach Bryan was not in attendance. Brianna ends up posting a carousel on her Instagram of herself in this dress. She looks great. It's a white dress, and there's like a slit on like one of her legs. You can see like her cleavage. And Zach Bryan reposted her carousel and goes like, "You look beautiful. Like that's my girl. Like whatever, pumping her up." Behind the scenes, though, what Brianna was telling on the BFFs podcast when she was rehashing what actually happened that night, what he wasn't posting on his social media was that he was berating her for dressing in the way that she did. He goes, I cannot be with a woman that presents herself in that manner. And when you look at the photos, it's like a very normal dress to wear when you're attending an event of the magnitude that is the Golden Globes. But she kind of talks about how she really started to see cracks when he started to really have wanted to have control over not only what she wore, but what she posted. She even admitted that his team had access and like full control over what she posted on social media. Like it became control to the nth degree.
Ugh, ugh, that's so insane. Such an insecure little man, the smallest
He,
man who ever lived, quote unquote.
he really is the smallest man who ever lived. And it's like she's not allowed to look fabulous and confident on a red carpet. Like it makes me feel so sad for her.
Yeah, and like as much as we're like shitting on Brianna Chickenfry, like no one deserves this kind of treatment from their partner.
Yeah. And it's crazy, right? Because I think she has talked about subsequent to their breakup, like he didn't even realize that what he was doing was not normal. She was so like in it. She wasn't even able to like pluck herself out of it, take a bird's eye view and say, oh, this is not normal. And he
Right.
was so wealthy. He had so much control. She gave up so much of her life to be alongside him. And I think she wasn't understanding how big of a deal and how much control he was actually exerting on her until it became like too late. And he ended up leaving her, which we'll get into.
Right.
But um, as I mentioned, that Brooke Allman girl, she's a Reddit user. She came forward with this information on Reddit that Zach had given her an STD. And as I already spoke about the dates of the messages in congruence with the road trip that Brianna Chickenfry was posting with Zach, people were like, there were definite parallels. And I think people were coming out of the woodwork calling the Brooke Almond STD allegations out in March 2024. And so Brianna took to her Instagram story and basically was like, listen, I see what you guys are saying. The internet can be like a dreadful place. It really impacts my mental health. It impacts the lives of myself and those around me. Like I'm literally in the greatest part of my life. She's like, I'm crushing life and suck my little clit to the rest.
Ugh.
That's what she wrote with big capital letters.
Ugh.
And I think this is where Dave Portnoy's special comes out when he kind of has this like performative feminism when it suits him or when it
Yeah.
brings him money. So in one of the BFFs episode, before discussing like the Brooke Almond information, Brianna basically says she's not going to be using her TikTok account. She's like, I'm getting harassed too much. But what's interesting is like she talks about how hard it is to be an online persona, how she can't even use her main TikTok account because people are coming out from the woodwork, accosting her through the comments. All the while, she then allows her coworker slash boss, Dave Portnoy, to basically berate and publicly humiliate Brooke Almond.
Oh my God.
And Dave comes to Brianna's defense and he says that he was morally offended on behalf of Brie and was disgusted by Brooke posting these things online about the alleged STD transmission. And he's kind of like doxing her and he's like, oh my God, this girl's such a fucking loser. She goes on Reddit. She has all these receipts talking about how
This is a
Zach Bryan,
45-year-old man, mind you. A 45-year-old man.
correct, having beef with probably like a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And as Dave Portnoy does, he always wants to like get into more fights, engage with these people. So I guess Dave or his team reached out to Brooke and said, "Hey, like Stool Presidente wants to talk with you." And Brooke, I guess, had agreed to speak with Dave Portnoy, but she later turned him down because she was like, listen, I'm being harassed because you're having all these stoolies come after me. And like, interestingly enough, the same thing happened with friend of the pod, Talia Lichstein, when she posted that thing about Dave Portnoy's dog and like literal stoolies started like calling her. It was actually insane. I'd never seen anything like it. It's scary. Um,
So scary.
and I can see why Brooke became nervous. She's like, I don't want to do this public podcast and say my side of the truth because I'm only going to get harassed more than I'm getting harassed today. And I basically was looking at this, or I was listening to a podcast episode where Dave was like rehashing everything that had happened with Brooke Almond. And he literally says that he took out the trash and he says, how dare Brooke Almond rescind her agreement to come on BFFs? He says he doesn't understand why. He says, he literally said, quote, I will knock your teeth out with a fucking wrench, metaphorically speaking. I will burn her out like the trash that she is. I watched this video where he says that. I will knock out your teeth with a fucking wrench, was his exact words. And it's like,
It's so violent and it's always this level of violent language. I don't care that it's metaphorically. It's always this violent language that he uses only against women.
right. And it's like, it's this reverse feminism where people, the stoolies say, Dave is standing up for Bree and, he's not letting her be pummeled by these random users on Reddit. But it's like, whatever you're doing is not actually solving the root problem of like,
Yeah,
this is just violent, aggressive. You're having your stands come after this poor woman. Like,
right.
it is a hot mess. And I think, again, if you want to listen to more about Dave Portnoy and you haven't listened already, we have a full like hour and a half episode on him.
And
And
why he's the worst ever.
right. But I think, all that to say, this is unsurprising that Dave Portnoy is coming out against a woman this aggressively because this is just kind of his MO. And this is the type of
Yeah.
person that Brianna is choosing to be employed with and be around and do a
Yeah.
podcast with.
That's
So,
why, once again, anyone who gets their start from Barstool, I will automatically side eye you.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a very
I know
reasonable
we've
thing.
talked about, we were like, what if Unwell Network like approached us? And we're like, well, like, who are we to turn down Unwell Network? Like, we have no morals anymore. If Barstool Sports approached us, I would literally be like, no.
No, I
That
agree.
I no.
No, I think that's
I have
absolutely,
morals when it comes to I'm not a sellout when it
yeah.
comes to Barstool Sports.
No, I don't think they would want to sign us either, to
Oh
be
no,
fair.
definitely not. Also, especially if they listen to our Dave episode where we
Yeah.
go in on him.
But I think that's a good place to end. I know this was a lot and
Wait, I found the caption.
oh yeah, please.
Okay, this is from June 17th, 2024. And it's a bunch of like film photos from like a lake house.
Oh
She
God.
goes, I turned 25 today. I'm so grateful for another year on Earth. I think a lot of us, especially in our younger years, spend too much time chasing shiny intangibles. I think if you're lucky, you'll get to vacuum crumbs in rooms that were earlier filled with people you love, and that'll be enough. Getting older is a fucking blessing. Thank you to my friends and family for making these past few days so simple and enjoyable. Cheers to another year spent in rooms full of people I love. All you ever need is some good company. 25, let it be the best one yet. Again, it's like, who is this person talking about vacuuming crumbs?
It's like that thing. I ain't reading all that. Sorry that happened to you, or happy
Yeah,
for you, or
yeah,
whatever. Like that's a lot.
yeah. It's like so intense.
Well, that's that on that. Sophie, any closing thoughts or
No,
anything else you want to talk about?
I'm very excited for part two. This was a great, like, I feel like introductory course, Chicken Fry 101. But I'm very excited for all of the stuff coming up in part two. I learned a
Yeah.
lot. I learned a lot
Yeah.
today. So thank you for driving this one.
Yeah, of course. And obviously, again, there's so much to her. So we're kind of covering the bullets. But if there's anything that you're thinking of that you're like, oh my God, how could they forget this? Notify us in the Spotify comments. Please don't be mean. We're trying our best to get as much information out on these two parters, but it's a lot. So appreciate you guys sticking with us. You know where to find us. We're at Snark Bay Pod on Instagram, at XKnowsAll, at Soph_Ross. Thank you to Jenna, our social manager, Jordan, our producer, Olivia, our researcher. And we'll see you guys next week on Dark Energy Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.